Riley Mann with the National Sports Media Association, joined by Jacob Rousseau, the 2023 Vermont Sportswriter of the Year. How are you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Of
Appreciate
course.
it.
Of course. All right. Could you give us a brief background about what you're doing and today in the world of sports?
So I, after getting the award, basically right after I had taken a new job with the Providence Journal in Rhode Island. So I'm with a Projo, covering high school and college sports like I did in Vermont, uh, PC athletics, University of Rhode Island athletics, and all of our local high schools as well.
That's awesome. Do you have a preference on whether you cover high school sports over college sports?
Not really. If I had to choose, I would probably say high school. I think there's a lot of good stories in high school that honestly, quite frankly, there's so many good ones that you try to get to as many as you can, but you really can't. College, obviously, the level of sport is higher, um, but high school, I find there's a lot of great stories.
That's awesome. And then you said that you kind of transition and you're working for the Projo now. How have you faced any like challenges with that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you have to learn a whole new community. Thankfully, I'm from Rhode Island, so I had a head start, but you still have to learn names, learn faces. I
For
know the
sure.
teams, but in terms of learning the people, that's obviously it takes time.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Next question I have is that what do you believe differentiates you from other reporters?
Oh man, I don't know. Um, I wouldn't say I do anything necessarily differently. I when I try to go into an interview or meeting someone for the first time, or even someone that I've known for a while, I just try to, you know, be as human as possible and just have conversations and wherever those conversations go and those relationships build, and so be it. But I try to, try to conduct myself in a way that is welcoming. Obviously, when you're working with people and sources, everyone's different. So just try to
Yeah,
be human and talk to them normally.
awesome. Thank you. Um, let's see. What else do I have for you? All right. Can you think of a moment off the top of your head that has like led to you winning this award? And how does it feel to know that your peers have put you up for this award and have voted for you?
Oh man. Obviously very, very thankful for the award. To to answer that second half of that question. I've been in Vermont for 2 years, 2.5 years really. Um, and in my second full year is when I won the award. But I think my football coverage in Vermont, not necessarily the X's and O's, but being able to connect with students and with coaches and delivering stories that are impactful to the community. One in particular was a coach who completely turned his life around, from an addiction with drugs and alcohol to, being uh, this face and name where kids can go to and feel comfortable. And he totally turned his life around, and I delivered that story, um, and in a way that I thought was very very welcoming. And um, you know I always am very thankful for my sources when they choose to share those stories with me.
Yeah, that was
So
probably fascinating and just really cool that you got to cover that and project that in your own voice. It's really
yeah,
inspiring. Do you have any other stories or favorite kind of memories from reporting?
yeah, I think it's always, for me, it's never about the X's and O's. It's always about the people, right? I think where anybody in this industry is lucky enough to be in it,
For
will
sure.
say that it's meeting and talking to people. I've never met a journalist that doesn't necessarily like to listen, or like that does like to listen, I should say. Um, so I love hearing stories and meeting people and um, hearing their life journey, because everyone's different.
For sure. For sure. How would you say that you kind of stay updated in like the world of sports and how do you find new stories or what do you decide is important to include versus what's not?
When you say important to include, what do you mean?
Like, what do you think when you cover a story, what do you decide in your process is important enough to include to project out to the public versus like not?
I guess what the people I'm talking to kind of hammer home, because if
Okay,
they have a point that they want to share, they'll usually tell you a few times. And I mean, you can rephrase your question in a different way to make sure you're understanding what they're saying, but usually they'll let you know what is important to them, and if it's important to them, it's probably important to their community.
for
Um,
sure.
the first part of your question, how do I stay connected? Definitely Twitter. I try to take Twitter with a grain of salt because it's Twitter.
Yeah,
But it's still a platform where you can get so much information at one point, and then where you go from there on Twitter, like if which story you click on, that you use your best judgment from there. But it's definitely a place where everything is still in on one platform.
for sure. Do you use any other apps for that or no, just pretty much Twitter for the most part?
Pretty much just Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think my screen time's way too high, but so be it.
That's okay. All right, let's see. How did you get started in the world of like sports and sports business? What made you really decide that this is what you wanted to do with your career? And yeah.
Uh, I've had this question asked to me a few times, and my answer is always I grew up at a very, very good time in New England. Like I said, I'm a Rhode Islander, but I'm 27, so I grew up in the Red Sox, Patriots, Celtics era of winning championships often. So I got hooked pretty early, and knew that I wanted to be in the sports world from basically the start.
Yeah,
Um, so it's funny though, when I graduated from Maryland, middle of COVID, so there was no sports, and I was covering more politics. Obviously, the election was at that time, uh, so I had like, I don't know, quarter life crisis, maybe a little less than quarter life crisis. I was like, "There's no sports. What is going on?" Um, but roundabout way of saying that that portion of time without sports definitely made me a more well-rounded reporter. And then obviously when sports came back, I got the job in Vermont and kind of went from there.
that's awesome. That must have been super tough not reporting in the world of sports when that's what you wanted to do.
Yeah,
Uh,
I know, right? That's the only thing I'd ever thought about doing, and
yeah.
I was like, there's nothing to do. So
Have you faced any other challenges like that in your career? Or that was kind of
no,
just
thankfully we hopefully we don't have something like that ever happen again. But yeah, no, that was definitely a time. But like I said, it definitely made me a more well-rounded reporter.
yeah, for sure. All right. And you said that you're 27 years old, so which means there's a lot of older people working in this industry as well that have been in it for years and years. Do you have anybody that you look up to in particular, like when doing your job?
When I was younger, I definitely read a lot of Bob Ryan's The Boston Globe.
Mhm.
But I try to read as many people as I possibly can. Bill Koch is my teammate here with the Providence Journal. He's great with college hoops, and he's
Yeah,
covered the Sox before. So I don't know if I necessarily have someone that I look up to per se, but I just try to read as many people as possible. I think that's one of the biggest things that has helped me is like everyone has a different style of writing or a different style of covering a sport, and to read as much as you can from different people, it helps tremendously.
that's awesome. With that being said, do you have any other pieces of advice for someone like me or interns or anybody who's kind of getting their foot in the door?
Yeah, I would one say read as much as you can, but you know there's never a story that's too small or too big, because it means something to someone. If they're taking the time to reach out to you and to talk to you, it means something to them. So there, there's never a story too big or too small. And if you think there's somebody else that you could talk to for a story and you have the time to reach out to them, why not? Because you don't know what they're
Yeah,
going to say. And um, so just basically read and uncover every stone if you can. So
sounds good. Well, thank you so much. And I believe that's pretty much all I have for you today, but I appreciate you joining us and congrats again on your award.
thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Of course. Have a great day.